Hey everyone, I am Jenn Walker Wall, founder of Work Wonders Careers, and you are watching another one of our Work Wonders Pep Talk. Today we're going to be talking about prepping for a pivot, so it's all about career transitions. If you're not familiar, if you haven't caught one of our Pep Talks before, I host these regularly and more regularly in the future to carve out time to help professionals and job seekers in particular carve out time to not just focus on their work and their to-do lists, but to focus on their careers. And my hope here is to offer some very actionable, easy to implement tips that will help you move your career forward and really design a career with intention, meaning, and impact. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm excited to talk all about career transitions. But before I dive into that, I want to say you can learn more about us and grab our free workbook by visiting workwonderscoaching.com. We have a Make Your Move workbook available that you are welcome to download, and will probably help you implement some of the strategies that we're talking about today. So you can go ahead and do that. I also want to say this is our last pep talk of the month. We're taking a little pause because in February, we're going to move forward and trying to do these every week. We're doing something special in February. It's a whole month with a secret special topic. I don't want to give too much away, but make sure you're on our mailing list or connected with us here on LinkedIn to learn more about that. I'm very excited about it. But if you do want to hang out before the month ends, I am hosting Reassess, Reinvent, and Reinvigorate Your 2021 Career Goals, a webinar later this month on January 27th. So please make sure you register for that if you are interested in joining. We would absolutely love to have you. If you are here and watching, please feel free to say hello. Hello from Boston. Hey, Rayshana. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. Oh, it's so nice to see you. I miss you. I miss seeing you about town. All right, so if you're here, feel free to say hello and let me know where you are watching from. I want to just say, if you're curious about that webinar, Reassess, Reinvent, and Reinvigorate Your 2021 Career Goals, it's happening with our friends Just Us Gals later this month. I'm going to be talking about like the number one mistake we see folks making and what you can do now to totally just avoid it. And also we're going to be sharing really simple exercises that you can do to build clarity, feel more confident about moving forward, and break down big or ambiguous goals. Hi, Robert. Hi, Maria. Awesome to see everyone trickling in. Ohio. Wonderful. Good to see everyone. Also going to be chatting in this webinar that's coming up about transferable skills, identifying them, communicating them, positioning them for growth, and resources that you can leverage for part of your career goals. Wow, lots of folks here today. Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Hi, Elizabeth. Oh my gosh, it's good to see you here. Lots of familiar faces today. So I hope you're all doing well. I know it's been kind of a rough start to the year, so thank you for joining me. I'm excited to dive into today's topic. Calgary, Brooklyn, Chicago, Atlanta. Oh, wonderful. Awesome. Wonderful to see you all. So today we're talking about prepping for a pivot or career transitions. And this is really like a 10,000-foot view of how I think about helping people approach a career transition. And before I dive in with the very specific tips that I have for you, I have some very quick questions that I think asking yourself will help generate a lot of clarity and confidence in your candidacy. I have some things to think about if you're feeling like you're pigeonholed and stuck, which is actually pretty common. But here's the number one thing that I want to say about career transitions. And I wanted to just offer kind of like my 2 cents on what they look like and what they come from and what I see working out for people. And let me just begin by saying, like, if you're an accountant and you want to be a zoologist, I fully support that transition. But what I have noticed in my years of working with people is that sometimes people are unhappy at work and feel like they need to make a 180-degree change. And sometimes the change that people need most is simply a better work environment. Sometimes it really, we can assume that it has to do with the nature of what we're doing or the job we've chosen or the company we've chosen. But a lot of times what I notice is that people who pivot to a better work environment, maybe with better resources and better people, end up being just as happy as I think they would have been if they had changed work entirely. So when I'm talking about pivots today, I'm not just talking about a 180-degree career change. Like I'm really trying to keep pivot something that's flexible and open, because I think we are often closer to finding good work opportunities than we think. And we don't necessarily have to kind of abandon ship just because we're doing something that we may not like currently. A lot of times I find that we don't like what we're doing because of the people and environment that we're doing it in. And that kind of change can be really wonderful and healthy and life affirming for people. So I just want to offer that in case you're really feeling like, wow, I have to make a drastic change. Sometimes it's just not that at all. Sometimes people need simply a better environment. And of course, if you want to make a big career change, we're here for that. So I just ask you to really take a moment and think, what is driving this? Am I being driven by an interest in something and a desire to tap into something else? Am I being driven away from something, which I think is a little bit different? Am I being driven away because I feel like I've made a bad decision, or I feel like I'm in the wrong place? And so oftentimes the answer is somewhere in the middle. So just be aware of kind of what's driving you. Are you being pulled towards something, or are you running away from something? And I think that's really helpful. Yes, Rayshana, I agree. Place matters. Very well said. All right, so you guys know this is all about simple, straightforward, to the point. So I want to share 3 questions that I use with my clients when they're trying to make this kind of career transition. And there's a couple of reasons I ask these 3 questions. It gets right to the point of people's experience and what they need to share and know about themselves effectively. And it helps generate really compelling content. So here's the first question. I want you to think about, in your next role, what do you want more of? So think big here and also think small. Like, this is where we want to paint a picture of what you're going to do, who you're going to be doing it with or for, or both, and how you're going to feel while you're doing it. And I also want you to think, if you're making a significant transition, like, how do you want to be treated and what kind of resources do you want available to you? Do you feel ready to hit the ground running? Are you looking for an opportunity with lots of mentorship and support and development along the way? Not all roles will offer both, so think about that. Think about what you need to be successful in your next role. Yes, Peter, it will. So not every single role is going to be right for someone coming from a different industry or a different line of work, but please rest assured that plenty are. And what I find is that people get so worried that they don't have enough to offer that they don't think about whether there's enough that's attracting them to the position. So that's really what this question is to get you to figure out, what is it that you want in a job, not just what you're bringing to the table here. And of course, the next question here is, what do you want less of? This is really equally as important in my mind. So like, make a list of the things that you don't want or want to minimize, right? There's no work out here without any challenges, I'm afraid to say. So I want you to really think, like, choose your challenges that you'd want to pursue and engage with on a regular basis. And also try to identify the problems you'd really, love to avoid. So for me, it was always really mattered hugely, like, who I was working with. And so that's something I would spend a lot of time thinking about and discerning as I was going through the interview process. And I know that's something that's really important to a lot of my clients, and I'm sure all of you as well. So what we really want to do with these 2 questions is, like, we're painting a picture of who we want to be and who we want to be working with. And the other thing that I think is important about these questions is that it puts you in the driver's seat. Because this isn't just about impressing people. This is about being really empowered to identify opportunities and also to rule out opportunities that maybe aren't going to offer the level of support to someone who is making some kind of pivot or transition, or isn't going to be a great fit for you for one reason or another, right? So I want people to be really in tune to what they want out of the process and what they need to be successful. Not to get off on a tangent, but like, something I hear from a lot of my clients is they feel like they don't have a lot of tangible results to show from their work. And when I listen to people talk through this challenge, it becomes clear that there just wasn't sort of like the buy-in or the resources invested in some of the problems that they were solving to really be successful. And so a lot of times we're helping our clients look for opportunities where there is kind of buy-in or consensus on moving forward so that they can really, use their energy in a productive way and feel good about it. So you deserve to put some things that you want out of your next job on the list as well. This isn't just about being chosen. And then the third question that I want to encourage all of you to ask yourself, because quite honestly, this generates some of the best content for resumes and interviews and basically all kinds of places throughout your candidacy, is what are you most proud of? And I want you to give yourself permission to answer this question without worrying about like how to position it. Like it can be positioned down the road, but I want you to really think about what makes you proud, like what you've done with a sense of integrity that you can look back and know was a really good job and was really important one way or another. And come up with more than one example. I think this is a place where people, often have, especially if we've been working for a while, we can come up with a few different examples here and really understand the impact we're having. I think so often we're caught up in just like the grind that we're not really aware at all, or not making the space or time to really take in the ways in which we're contributing to different outcomes or improving processes or simply making life more pleasant for peers or customers or whoever it may be. So I want you to really do this. We have and I think Nicole is here. Hi, Nicole. I think Nicole will be sharing a link to our show notes where we have included a link to a story mapping tool. So once you've done some reflection work on these questions, you can actually use our story mapping tool. There's a tutorial, and you can really think about how to position it in a way that will be attractive and align with other kinds of opportunities in other fields. So we've created a way for people to kind of think through that. But at the forefront of this is really just understanding your value and taking ownership over things that you feel really proud of. So make sure you start there, and then we'll worry about positioning it for another audience. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. The second tip I have for folks here is an exercise to help you like drill down and get really, really specific when you are thinking about making a career transition. Because what I find happens is that people are very quick to feel underqualified or maybe even overqualified for everything. So, or they feel like they're pulled in too many different directions. That's actually something that I hear quite a lot, is that people are pulled in too many directions, and that leaves them feeling like they don't have a strong sense of clarity over, hey, Lena, nice to see you. Oh, there's still people saying hello. Hi, everyone. So here's what I want you to do if you're feeling pulled in too many different directions and things don't feel cohesive or organized. I want you to find 3 job postings. They don't even have to be active because this really isn't about applying for jobs. And I want you to use the criteria of they should be compelling and they should be intriguing. Like you should be curious to learn more about these opportunities. That's how we know. Sometimes people feel like they need to be like 110% excited on a job posting. I don't feel that way about job postings. I think if you're curious, that's usually enough. And then what we often do with our clients when they bring us these 3 jobs is like we try to see, what do these jobs have in common? Like what are the common themes and skills and content areas that they're drawing from? And even if they have different titles, even if they're in different industries, like usually there's this synergy here that drills down that I think is best described using themes. And so what we can help people do is really start to articulate their interests in a different way, maybe not using role titles, but using, themes or skills or areas of expertise here. I don't love the idea at all that our sense or notion of career clarity would be a job title. Like we're all very dynamic people. Nobody here is just a job title, right? We all have way more to offer than that. We're people, we're not roles. And so I want you to give yourself permission to think about other ways to articulate that and to know that you have enough clarity to move forward. As soon as you can identify some of these common themes and skills, you'll see that even if there's differences in the jobs, that you're drawing on similar parts of yourself to perform these jobs. So that's what I like. I like commonalities in the themes and skills. That's the kind of clarity that gives you options and flexibilities rather than boxing you in or pulling you in a million different directions. If anyone has any questions at any time about anything I'm sharing or other parts of the career transition, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I have one more tip for you, which is about feeling pigeonholed or stuck. So if you're here and you're listening and you've ever felt stuck in a career, like it's too late to make a difference, drop a 1 in the comments and let me know if that's you, because I feel like we probably will have some people here. Just taking a look at the comment that just came in. So proud of all my accomplishments while teaching virtually during this pandemic. I feel that future employers might not see how valuable teachers would be to them and how much they can offer given the opportunity. Janice, that's a great comment. And I think how I might respond to that. Oh, hey, Jen. How I might respond to that is to really think through what kinds of jobs would really value what a teacher's bringing to the table, and to expand on and make really clear to potential employers how transferable those skills are. A lot of people think that a teacher spends all their time in a classroom with students, but they don't see the prep work, they don't see the administrative work, they don't see the relationship work with other stakeholders. I'm seeing an awful lot of ones come in. So Janice, I would think about some of that. And also, I think our pep talks that are happening next month might be helpful for you. So keep that in mind. So I have a couple tips for people who feel stuck. I want you to get comfortable thinking about and communicating your transition, because I think people's inability to effectively communicate their transition and their goals and their value at the same time keeps people stuck. So I'm going to give a couple of templates here that I use with clients, and I want you to feel free to type these out or grab a notepad real quickly. Most recently, I've been an X, but I'm considering transitioning to Y. I'm really excited about the possibility of A, B, and C. And so what we do here is, obviously you fill in the blanks. This is like a job search Mad Lib situation. And what I want you to do is feel comfortable taking ownership over the work that you've done, naming your goals, and also figuring out how you can articulate sort of the commonalities or the skills that you'll be drawing from as you make your transition. So I know we had a teacher here. So most recently I've been a high school social studies teacher, but I'm considering transitioning into corporate training. And I'm really excited to continue working in education, but with adults and in the context of their jobs and helping them perform better at their jobs, right? So that's like a way to say, I'm here, I want to go there, and here are the relevant experiences that I'm bringing to the table. So when you do that, you've filled in the gaps for people and you've let them know where you want to go, both of which are critical if you want to engage your network or have compelling conversations with recruiters or hiring managers about your future. The other thing that I think might be really helpful when you are speaking to people, and a lot of my clients who kind of go through the pivot process, so to speak, do a lot of informational interviews, right? So they might find people or know people who have made a career transition on their own and set up time to talk and learn more about what that looks like. So you could just say something like, I'd love to know more about your journey to X. Right? Tell me more about how you got here. Let's see here. I have one more. I've actually spent quite a bit of time doing A, B, and C, and would love to spend the next phase of my career doing C and E, right? So give people a linear way to kind of understand your growth, and it can be clear, it can be concise, and you can still ask questions and have uncertainty. But what I don't want people to be uncertain about is that they're bringing a lot of valuable experience and skills to the table here. What about part-time work? Harder to find roles, candidacy pool opportunities not taken as valued. So can you clarify, like, are you looking for part-time work or are you coming to the table with part-time work? That would be helpful for me to know before I tried to answer that. So one thing I see all the time is that people just simply underplay because they don't understand the experience and value that they're bringing to the table. And so these networking opportunities, these conversations that you have are not just a way to gather information, but a way to potentially position yourself down the road. And too many people say, oh, gee, I might like to do this, but like I really don't have the experience. And I actually think some language that you could use, like, this is a non-linear path. This is a non-traditional path to this job, but I really want to understand what makes people successful in this role. And the reason we ask questions like that is because we're trying to reflect on our own experience and how to make sure that things people need out of the people they're hiring are things that we are able to communicate and demonstrate. Willing to do. I agree that if you're looking for part-time, like real high quality, like engaging part-time work, it can be difficult to find. I don't know what candidacy pool opportunities not taken as valued means. Donna, that's a good question. Like, how do you suggest selling yourself in a minute? I want to just think about this for a second, because I want to know where you are when you're selling yourself, because I don't know that we need to be selling ourselves as often as we think. Being curious is valuable, and collecting information is valuable. And so if you are having an initial conversation with someone and you don't really know what they value, then it's really could be hard and kind of awkward and weird to sell yourself, especially if it's an informational interview where you don't need to be pitching yourself. So I would ask, like, is this an interview, or is this more like an informational interview, which is like low stakes, and they're probably not making a hiring decision. So I think this initial template of most recently I've been an X, but I'd like to be a Y, and I'm excited about the possibility of A, B, and C. That kind of template allows you, A, B, and C is something of value to the people who hire for that role. And X is what you've done previously there. I feel like I'm teaching algebra. We're solving for X here. So I want you to think about, like, is this actually a conversation that requires me to sell, or is this a conversation that enables me to learn how to sell myself down the line? I would just ask, what are you looking for when you are hiring for someone making a transition from another industry into this field? What would be, compelling, transferable, relevant experience in your mind? And there may be an opportunity in that conversation to say, I've done that, but I wouldn't assume that. Like, I think one of the reasons people are hesitant to have some of these conversations is because they don't give themselves time to ask and collect information down the line. Someone said, I'm seeing, can you please give an example? I'm not sure what that's in regard to. I did say, so most recently I have been a teacher, but I'm considering transitioning to corporate training. And I'm really excited about the possibility of continuing to serve as an educator, working with adults and helping them perform better at their jobs. That's just one way to I know there was a teacher here, so that's one way of doing this. Okay. So someone asked about going from full-time high-stress work to part-time work and how employers look to that as overqualified. Yeah, no. So I think, so a couple of things to think about here is, like, do you need to be applying cold online, or do you have people in your existing network that you can, like, put word out to? You are looking for part-time work. That might be one way to kind of go about doing that. You also may look at places that are known to do job sharing. So you could do some research on Glassdoor or Google to see which employers in your area may be doing that. You can also always activate external recruiters who may have opportunities to work like that. And see if you can do those sorts of things. The other piece that I would do here is I would try to make that clear in my application. I wouldn't necessarily, like, I'm looking to transition from high stress to, like, a less stressful environment, but you could say, like, I'm ready to take a pause on this part of my career. I'm ready to stop doing X and make a transition that's going to be better for my overall work and life. And what I'm bringing to the table is, right? So the employer here is going to be more interested in what you're bringing to the table in terms of relevant experience and skills than why you're making the change. But we also, because you may be overqualified or highly qualified for some of these roles, want to make that clear so that they don't say, look at your resume and assume, well, this person would be taking a huge pay cut. Why would they want this job? You're welcome. Going from office admin to a part-time vet tech assistant. Yeah. And so think about like, there's a lot of transferable skills there. There's a lot of like relationships. There's a lot of like data management. So going from an office admin to a vet tech assistant, like they sound like wildly different jobs, but like I can imagine that there's some overlap there. So I would really focus on communicating that value and your desire for part-time work, leveraging your network to the degree that you can, and maybe even reaching out to some veterinary offices and saying, I'm interested in making a transition from the full-time job I have now to part-time vet tech work. Here's my resume, highlighting my relevant experience. Please keep me in mind for future openings. All right, let's see. I lost my place in my notes here. Another way to kind of avoid feeling stuck. A lot of my clients experience people in their network keeping them in mind, but keeping them in mind for the kinds of jobs they no longer want. And so what I want to encourage you to do to kind of counteract that is educate your network by sending them 1 or 2 sample jobs that really align with what it is that you're looking for. So instead of, if someone's sending you jobs that you are no longer interested in, it would be like, thank you so much for thinking of me. I so appreciate you keeping me in mind. As it turns out, I am looking for a job, and here are the kinds of jobs that I am looking for. I've attached a couple samples. And I would let people know that you're making a pivot. A lot of times people interpret folks sending them the same kind of job over and over again as a sign that they can't do anything else. But I actually think it's a sign, one, that the people in your life think highly of you and want you to be successful, and that you're good at what you've done. And I think generally when you're good at what you've done, you're probably someone who would also be good doing other things too. So let people know what it is that you are looking for, because that's what's going to be really critical, is making sure people are looking for the right kinds of opportunities here. Okay, so I'm going to do a last call for questions here. And I see one coming in. And before I start taking questions, I just want to invite all of you to a webinar that I am hosting next week. The link is in the show notes that Nicole has posted. Reassess and reinvigorate your 2021 career goals. So we're going to be putting all of this together. If you are someone who wants 2021 to be a year that you recommit to whatever career growth might look for you, particularly if you think you'll be a job seeker, I want to invite you to join us for an hour where I'll be laying the foundation here and really helping people think through how to avoid some common mistakes, offering some really simple exercises that you can do to feel more confident and feel much clearer about the direction that you'll be moving, how to articulate and communicate transferable and relevant experience, and what resources you may need to move you forward. So it's not just about extracting work in the career growth process, but there are things that we need to give ourselves and find in order to be successful. So I definitely want to invite you. It's Wednesday, January 27th at noon Eastern time, and we'll be partnering with our friends, Just Us Gals, for that webinar. So I'm really looking forward to that. All right, thank you, Nicole, for resharing that link. All right, Janet is asking, I'd like to convert my full-time position to job sharing. How to approach that with my director? I would be very curious to hear more about the relationship you have with your director. Is this a conversation that you think will go well? Do you think this is going to be like an uphill battle? I would be very curious about that, Janet. And I think if I thought it was going to be an uphill battle, I would want a lot of data and information to help make my case. So I might, for example, try to bring like a case study or job descriptions for an example of a job shared director position, or sorry, your full-time position, whatever that job title might be, so that I can really explain to people what that might look like and answer any potential questions. If I thought it wouldn't be such a difficult case to make, I might just start by having a real exploratory conversation and say, what's been on my mind lately? I'm considering, reducing this role into 2, part-time roles, or whatever you might have in mind. I'm kind of making things up here. And I don't think it would come as a surprise. So if you would feel comfortable having that conversation, initiating that conversation, I would always like to start things personally as just like exploratory. So I'm not committing to anything, but that might be a good option for you. It sounds like you have a good relationship there where you'd be comfortable bringing things up. If you are considering to start a new field where you have very little experience, how do you pitch yourself in a very tough job market without lowballing yourself? Okay, so I want everyone to hear this. You have relevant transferable experience. And it is absolutely going to be up to you to identify and articulate that. That's really where we need to be. So when I hear someone say we have very little experience, I often think it means that they don't understand what their relevant experience might look like. And so I would really recommend looking at job postings, looking at those qualifications, figuring out, it's not enough to say like, I don't have that. I want you to think about how you have that. So if you have, so some ways that this has showed up for my client, just to be my clients very concrete here. I had a client who wanted to transition into HR, didn't have HR experience, but did have experience hiring, did have experience training, did have experience supervising, folks. So that's what we were able to name and articulate, right? So we couldn't articulate a full HR skill set, but we were able to name some specific domains. And I think that it's really important to name the relevant experience that you have here, because if we just say I have very little or I don't have any, then there isn't a reason for people to consider our candidacy. But if we can name what we have that is relevant, then people will be able to see. We do that with our clients using a summary of qualifications. I think it's a remarkably powerful tool at the top third of your resume. And I don't want to give anything away, but we may or may not be talking a lot about resumes in the weeks ahead, because this is a positioning tool that you have. It's a way to tell your story. And the summary of qualifications enables us to share the most relevant parts of your experience in a clear and concise and easy to read way. So think about what those skills are. Don't assume you don't have any, and try to be generous. It's not disingenuous. Like, we're not making things up about your experience, but instead of saying I have no HR experience, talk about the HR experience that you do have. My favorite story about not recognizing your own qualifications is my client who sent me a job that required a master's degree in either science, communications, or law, to ask me if she was qualified. And she had an MD. She was a medical doctor. And so when I say people have relevant experience they don't give themselves credit for, this is what I'm talking about. I said, yes, we're going to count that as a master's degree. It's definitely relevant. Okay, so I think I accidentally answered this other question here. How do you modify your resume for something totally different, but used similar skills? Or do you address the commonality of your experience and the position in the cover letter? So the answer to that I kind of just gave away, which is this: we use the summary of qualifications, which is always based on not our clients, but it's based on the job at hand. So it's information from our clients. It's information that highlights specific pieces of their experience, but we do that for each job. And so when you're making a career change, and let's just say your most recent position doesn't make a lot of sense for the role title that you're targeting, what the summary of qualifications enables us to do is put something ahead of that. Put relevant, compelling information that people are looking for at the top of your resume, and not a disembodied list of keywords either. That's not what we do. And we don't put a bunch of ambiguous skill lists. Like, we look at what the job posting is asking for, and then we summarize how our clients meet that. And some of our clients can check every single box perfectly. Sometimes it's, like between 60 and 70%. But if you want the job, we will help you position yourself for it. Oh, thank you, Jen. All right. You are so welcome. So I'll do a final call for questions. While I remind everyone, I would love to see you at our webinar later this month on the 27th, Reinvent and Reinvigorate Your Job Search. Lots going on there. We're going to help people put the pieces together for their career plan for the year ahead. And we have a whole bunch more pep talks coming. So if you're not on our mailing list, you're welcome to head over to our website, workwonderscoaching.com, and sign up there, so that you'll get notice when we have another round of pep talks for you. If you want to make suggestions for pep talk topics, feel free to send me a DM. And if you're watching these and would like to stay connected, please feel free to send me a DM. Send me a connection request, and that way you'll get notifications when we go live again. I want to thank Nicole for helping me stage manage here and sharing those links. The upcoming webinar is in the show note links, so you can click into that and you should get access to it. I put that in the show notes earlier today. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap up today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to, you're so welcome, Eric. I hope to see you all again soon. Stay safe, be well, take care. Bye-bye.